What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very interesting small project for you again. We are going to create countdown timer with progress bar using HTML, CSS and vanilla JavaScript. Let me show you how this works. We have a button here, if I click this button, we can see that the time is decreasing, and we can also see that the width of the progress bar is decreasing as well. And once it gets to 0, it says game over. And if I click this again, it restarts and we can see the same thing happening again. So this is what we are going to build, as I said, with vanilla JavaScript. Before we start creating this project, I just want to say, if you are looking for some nice project-based tutorials about front-end web development, make sure you subscribe to my channel, make sure you hit the notification icon so that you don't miss anything, and give this video a thumbs up. And with that said, let's open Visual Studio Code and start creating this project from scratch. I am inside Visual Studio Code, and as usual, now the first thing we need to do, we need to create a couple of files. We need to create index.html, we have to create style.css and app.js. Inside the index.html file, let's create our structure. Basically, for the title, we will say countdown timer with progress bar. And inside the body, we will have a div with the class of container, which will hold our elements. And from the top, we will have an h1 saying countdown timer, and below that we will have a paragraph which will say time left semicolon, and we will wrap this with span, basically the countdown time when we use JavaScript, and that will be 10 seconds initially. Below the paragraph we will have a div with the class of progress, and that will be the parent div, which will have another div inside, which will be the actual progress with the color. So to show you that, you will be able to understand how we will do that when I start styling this. But now we have to create the structure first. So here inside the div class of progress, we will place another div with the class of progress inner. And that's it for this div. And below the div, we will have a button with the class of btn-start, and that button will say start. All right, that's enough for the structure. Let me open this with live server and let's see what we have created. Well, we have this. Let's head back to Visual Studio Code. Let's link our style.css. So I'm going to say link CSS, and right before the body, I will also link my JavaScript file. I will say script source, and I will say app.js. And I will minimize this. Let me just bring this up. So I will make this smaller, and I will minimize my Visual Studio Code here so that we can make changes and see them in real time. All right, so let's start styling this application. Inside the style.css, let's do a basic reset. Let's say box sizing to be border box, margin to be 0, and padding to be 0. The div with the class of container, that container will have a width of 100%, a background color of purple, a height of 100 VH, basically to take the whole viewport, the whole screen. The color will be white, so the text color will be white. We will say display flex align items to the center, justify content to the center, flex direction will be column. Basically, we're pushing everything to the center and everything will be in a column. All right, now after we have done this, let's also style our H1. So the H1 will have a font size of, let's try 40 pixels and see how this looks like. Well, it looks small to me. Let me just make this bigger. All right, so we can say probably around 50 pixels to make it a little bit bigger. All right, that's for the H1. For the paragraph, I will say font size to be 19 or let's say 20 pixels. You can say font weight here to be bold. Same for the paragraph. So font weight to be bold. We can say margin bottom for the heading to be 50 pixels. We can also say the same thing for the paragraph, so margin bottom to be 50 pixels. And let's start styling also the progress. So progress, that one will have a width of let's say 70%. No, actually that would be let's say 500 or 600 pixels for the width. Height will be, let's say 15 pixels. A background color of gray. A padding of 10 pixels. Let's see how this looks. Well, it looks small, so let's increase the height maybe. Okay, no, height is not. Let's try 20 pixels for the padding. Height, I will leave it as 20 pixels. I can give this margin bottom, so margin bottom of 20 pixels, or maybe 50. Let's make it the same as above, 50. And after that, we can say progress dash inner, and that one will have a background of green. So green for the background. We will say position, so position relative for the parent div, and for this one, which is inside the parent div, we will say position absolute. We'll say top, we'll say, sorry, width of 100% and height of 100%. If I save now, you will see. Okay, something happened here. Let me see why this popped up. Div class progress. Div class progress inner. Progress inner and progress. So what we messed up here. All right, so the reason why this happened is because we gave padding to this parent div. And if I comment this out, you see that it's in the right position. Let's increase the height here. And now it's the way it should be. All right, let's prettify this. So I'm gonna hit prettier, and prettier is a very nice extension which you can install from here. You just have to search for prettier, install it, and that allows you to format your code. It's very cool. So I recommend this. Let's start styling the buttons. So btn start. We gave it the class of btn start. That one will have a padding of how much? Let's say 20 pixels. Width of 30% maybe. And font size of 20 pixels. Background color of, what color we should give this? Let's say red. Let's see how this looks. Red, color to be white, And let's also remove this outline and border. So border 0 and outline none. Now it doesn't have anything, and it's also say border radius 5 pixels. All right, that button looks good to me. And we can also say font weight of bold. Okay, and we are missing something. We are missing the emoji, so let's grab them quickly. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to search for timer emoji, and I will grab emoji-guide.org, basically from this website, or maybe we can search for clock emoji. Let's see, clock emoji, and let's navigate to this one, and let's copy this. So you just have to click on copy and then come back to the index.html and paste it right here. So I'm gonna paste it, give some space. Oops. So I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna paste it right here. And now the emoji appeared. All right. So we are done with the styling, the structure. Let's start implementing the JS logic. Well, what we have to do now first, we have to bring the elements as usual. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say a const button, or let's say btn start equals document.querySelector, and we will specify the class we have given. I will say btn-start. We need the paragraph. Remember that span, so I'm going to say const time span equals document.querySelector. And let's give it a class quickly. So we will say class name, or class name is in React. We will say class, and that will be time. And here we will say dot time. What else we need? We need the progress, the inner progress. So I'm going to say const progress bar equals document.querySelector, and that has a class of progress inner. And that's it for the elements. And what we have to do now, basically we have to interact with the button. And the way to do this, we have to assign an event listener to that button. And we can do that by saying btn start dot at event listener. We will listen for the click event. So I'm going to say click, and we will run a function. And to test this, we can say alert working. Now if I save this, hit the button, we see that alert message popping up. So it's hooked up. Good job. Now, here inside this button click event function, we need to do some logic. We have to define a variable. I will call this interval. So interval, and that will be equal to 10 initially. And below this, I will say var count down to be equal to setInterval function. And for the interval, I will provide 1 second. And here I will say interval minus minus. And first of all, before doing any checks, I will calculate the width of the progress. So I'll say let progress width, the progress bar width, to be equal to interval divided by 10 multiplied by 100. And here I will make a check. So if interval is greater than 0, I want something to happen, and if it's not greater than 0, I want something else to happen. So inside this first if block, we will say progress bar dot style dot width to be equal to progress width plus percentage. So here we are assigning a dynamic value using JavaScript. And after that we can say time span dot inner HTML to be equal to interval plus seconds. Else, what we want to clear the interval, so we can say clear interval, and we have to pass in that countdown function, and we want to say progress bar dot style dot width to be equal to 0%, and time span dot inner HTML to be equal to game over. All right. So if I save now, and if I reload this page, if I hit the button, we can see that the time is reflected. The time is reducing. The size of the bar is reducing as well. And once it hits 0 seconds, it says game over. So how can we now reset that back to initial values when we hit the start button? Actually, it's starting. Yeah, so this is working right now. I thought it's not going to be working, but it's working. So let's work on defining the colors. So basically when we have, let's say, less than 60% width, let's say we have another color, and we have less than 30%, we have another color. Let's define a function here. We can say const check colors to be equal to an arrow function. And here we will pass the width as a parameter, and we will make checks based on the width we receive as a parameter. And we'll say if width is greater than, I would say 60, we want the progress bar dot style dot background to be equal to red. Else if width is greater than 30, we want the color of the progress bar, so style dot background to be equal to, actually let's replace that red with yellow, and here let's do red, and else we can say progress bar dot style dot background to be equal to actually that's gonna be red because that's the final one. And here what we can do, we can say what color, yellow for this one and green for this one. Yeah, I think that will be the right order. And what we have to do now, we have to pass this function right here. So check colors, and we have to provide the progress width. Let's save this and let's hit the button again. So I hit the button. We see that at some point it should change to yellow. It's changing to yellow. And it changed to red, and the game is over. We hit the start button and it restarted again. So that was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you subscribe to my channel for more amazing videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you again in the future videos.